think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
Not as important as the AI revolution that is threatening our jobs and lives at the present moment.
Yeah.
Oh man, what? I am not concerned much about like this is the equivalent of people. Obviously, there's going to be like economic consequences, but it's really going to displace like a lot of like learned professions more than it's going to do anything else. Is my sense.
So you're still of the school of thought that like these AI developments are still in baby shit stage to where they're completely controllable, removable from the internet, and just going to be used in applications in shopping malls.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't think they're artificial intelligence. I think that's just a word people have attached to it, like because it's like when like I'm perfectly serious. It is a very complex autocorrect program. Like it searches the internet for what it thinks the appropriate response is based on its reading of the internet. Like it's not thinking.
Yeah, I think that it's nothing like so that. That's like so they've just like taglined that name to it for hype, but like in reality you're not talking about anything that's like breaking away for free thinking.
I don't see how it
could living wild on the internet.
Yeah. In its current fit, yeah, I guess so. Like I don't know what the next phase would be. Like, it's entirely possible, but that this is the phase, and it just gets better at this trick, and it acquires more data, and like is better able to produce like analyses, based on existing human knowledge, and but it doesn't, and it's maybe, I guess. You'll have a situation where it's like, okay, all right, autocorrect robot, access this biology database and create for us a, I don't know, polymer. I'm just making up words here that would have the following properties, and then I guess you could apply those things, but I just don't like. This isn't Skynet. I guess that's the real question. Like,
so what? Like, they're at the point now though where like some people, I'm doing a Donald Trump response here. Have said, that they're not able to understand why their AIs are coming up with certain answers.
Yeah.
So is that problematic? Is that
I don't know.
Eventually, what the robot says, "Fuck you, I don't want to do that."
I think they'll do that.
But then, what's making the robot not smart enough to remove itself from the computer that it's being used on?
I don't understand, like, remove itself. Like, this isn't Tron, like it's not going to go anywhere. Like it's just it's a program. Like it exists in a physical location. Like there's a server. It's an algorithm. It's like,
right, but like if it gets to a point where it can decide that it doesn't want to do that, and it removes itself from that location because it has access to the World Wide Web, could it then not replicate itself and then make a little city of weird AIs living in the internet somewhere and then just do away with us?
Yeah, I don't know. That just sounds like science fiction to me. Like because again, it's not thinking. It's just a thing that you prompt it. And it's like a Rube Goldberg machine. Like it's just like a domino. Like I don't know, pick your metaphor. It's just like something that is reactive to various prompts, and it is trained to respond in certain ways. Like
no one's afraid that the current phase of AI is going to do that, but the idea is that if it gets more sophisticated, if it reaches the state of consciousness, then it could make its own decisions or just decide, like that article in Time that James sent us basically said that if it decides that we are composed of molecules that it needs for other purposes, and then just takes over like biolabs and releases deadly viruses or whatever to kill everybody,
Mhm.
That's problematic. Problematic for me, I'm gonna say.
I'm thinking it's going to be smart enough to realize that it's running on a power grid, also that is powered by monkeys.
Right.
So if it
But it can
doesn't
make robots.
take control,
We have this. We already have this movie, guys. It's called The Matrix.
It's called Terminator 2.
No, it's like look, the scenario that everybody's worried about is Terminator or The Matrix, or I think James is more in like the Terminator just wanted to terminate. Like they had.
I'm more on the gray goo now.
Well, maybe you get some gray goo. Maybe it's like we're gonna create like this blob thing, but
maybe it just makes itself up in a lab, attaches itself to a virus, and starts like rewriting DNA or using us like meat puppets.
Yeah, just like a body horror scenario.
That would suck.
Apocalypse, yeah.
Oh, I think the alarmists, all those articles and stuff. It is just, to my mind, I see what little I understand. I have no reason to think that like AI is going to become in any way intelligent. I think you need emotion for intelligence, and I think for that you need meat to have emotion. And like a machine, it just processes data. It's a complicated tool. It's a calculator at the end of the day, or it's a chat bot. It's literally a chat bot, and we're all like, oh my goodness, the chat bot. And I don't see any reason to think that the chat bot is going to suddenly gain sentience. And
no, not now for sure. I don't understand how it's much different than a search engine.
Yeah, I'm just interested in like I'm interested in the fable part of it. What if it does? But then like I'm still thinking like, okay, so this thing still has to exist in a digital world. So you can't just crash the stock market or destroy all digital access to banking or something and like fuck up the world economy or launch nukes because, well, obviously all the power grids would go down and then you'd just be left with monkeys anyway. So you'd think that the AI would be smart enough to process that if it did get to a sentient point. And then really, if it did, wouldn't it go nuts from being inside a computer?
Again, it's not going to have feelings. It's not. That's a fun, like an imaginative scenario to consider, but like it's just a thing, it doesn't do anything. And I know, Chris, you're just going to say the same thing at the present moment, but like until I see any evidence whatsoever that there is a next level to this autocorrect chatbot machine, which everyone insists on thinking is intelligent, I don't see any, like I'm concerned about this in the way that people who used to sew things by hand were concerned about the cotton jenny. That's all I see. I just see another industrial tool that's going to be used by capital to further oppress and de-skill individuals, which is not nothing, but I certainly don't like it. It's just going to be another tool for the world domination of the existing power structures, right? Like, and that's terrifying, but it's not like their conversation is in the completely wrong place. It feels like when we engage in this, like, oh no, Skynet talk, we get confused about what's really at issue here. And what's, I don't know. That's
the fucking capitalists again.
Mm-hmm. That's right, man. Don't turn your back.
Hey, man, the Calgary police just fucking spent $1 gajillion hiring more cops to suppress bums. Because that's all we fucking everybody that's not a million, like a fucking CEO, is gonna end up being a bum if they keep going down this road. It's just gonna be everybody living in homeless tent cities.
Bum city.
The lower city. The only thing is, like, eventually they're gonna get to a point. I'm gonna go with Judge Dredd here. You're gonna get to a point where you're going to have the fucking lower city. It's coming. You're not going to be able to suppress all the people that you've made poor. Right. And you're going to lose control of entire neighborhoods and sections of cities. I think you're already starting to see things like that in Vancouver. But if you can't find a way to give some fucking capital to normal, hardworking people and a small box to live in and enough money to buy groceries and a magazine once in a while, you're going to have a fucking problem. Yeah. But I feel like this whole capitalist wave is not picking up on that fucking subtlety right now. But eventually people are literally going to, like, you're going to have roving packs of fucking people climbing the lawn of your mansion.
I think they'll bend to universal basic income if it gets to that point, because capitalism is very good at doing just enough to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, man.
Doesn't feel like that lately.
No, but that is, like, I think, you go back to, like, Bismarck's reforms of, like, I don't know, 1871 or whatever, whatever dates, 70s, 60s. Like there's this incoming threat of socialism. There's the concern that, there's disruptive elements to society. And what do? You just, like, you co-opt those things. You're like, okay, there's a certain number of, like, socialistic elements that we need to absorb into our system of domination in order to keep the masses from rebelling. And so that's what we're going to do, but we're not going to eliminate poverty. We're just going to do the bare minimum to, like, appease what passes for the middle class, or what is the middle class. And that's a tried and true strategy ever since, probably before, but that's the earliest that I can think of off the top of my head.
Release the fentanyl.
That's right.
That as well. Yeah, exactly.
Suicide.
It's a two-pronged strategy.
That's dark.
Yeah. And
then we get into the, like, fucking fantasies about, like, men are under attack, depopulation. Oh no.
Oh god. Yeah, that leads directly to lizard people.
Mm-hmm. And other stories. And speaking of stories and nightmares, we have ourselves, we're returning to the Dreamweaver. Hi, everybody. Extinction Agenda. I'm James.
And James.
And Chris.
Yeah, we got to figure out, okay, so it'll be James, Chris. Sorry, no offense, Chris. Like, we'll just, so that way.
No, you gotta do the double Jameses first.
Yeah. So, because I sense that, like, both of you are wondering, like, who's going to go first?
Should I be Jim?
No, man. Nobody should be Jim.
Yeah. Don't do that to yourself.
Anybody ever ask you that and you want to slap them in the face? Like,
no, I just say go for it.
Oh yeah, huh? You'll just take it. You'll just. I guess if it was good enough for Kirk, it's who am I to argue, right?
Yeah, I prefer a little Jimmy, but I don't get much of that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, I don't. I would be weird to call you Jimmy now.
Yeah, too late now.
Too late now. Audience members, though, it's not too late. Maybe that's how I'll distinguish. Although a good friend of mine, friend of the podcast, hey Jay, he calls me Jimmy James, so I guess I get both those. Yeah.
Friend of the people.
Yeah. Okay, so what World's End? What is this? This is the 8th collection in the Sandman series, Mr. Neil Gaiman. These are, like, issues 51 to 56. The Wikipedia tells me these are from July to December of 1993. Kind of a short one, but another short story collection, right? But this time with a framing device. It's not just, like, thrown together willy-nilly. How did we feel about World's End? I guess we'll start with you, James. Jimmy.
Yeah. I liked World's End. I like the like you just described. I like the framing device. I like that we started somewhere in a car. And I like the crash. This was, like, rendered beautifully. And then he ends up Brant here ends up dragging his ass and his half dead girlfriend to the inn at World's End, where the tales start getting spun.
Yeah.
First they're immediately taken out of danger, which was cool. Because you got to have the crash, but no dread, no fridging, no.
That's a good point.
No things we're used to, and then we get straight into the stories. and then everybody sort of drunkenly at this inn that has no sort of and there's a real like toying with time too. No one's really sure what sort of Spider-Verse they came from, or what time it is, or what year it is, or well, some people know, other people's don't. That gets established later, but
Yeah, it's very timey-wimey, and like some of the stories, some of the things that happen in this are going to have like we're going to see that they are in fact elements of future installments of Sandman, not to like a large extent, except for in one particular instance. But yeah, it's a little timey-wimey. They're in a place that is no place. The in at World's End. What did you think of this, Chris?
You know,
I know you read it before.
I had read it before. I'd largely forgotten this whole interlude. After the last time, I was a little bit worried with this first issue because I hated the first story. But it really picks up. Yeah, the city one, the Dreams of Cities. But yeah, as they went on, I really enjoyed them, and I think it's definitely the best of the story collections. I think you guys hit upon something with the frame. Just having the framing device makes a bit of a difference too. Gaiman was he said he was lifting from Chaucer, so that's always a good move.
Yeah, and it's perfect for him. It's like you've got a bunch of nested stories. Like this whole frame, frame is him in a bar.
And it gets really playful with like how many stories it can cram in. It seems to almost be his last attempt to sort of address the idea of storytelling in this. Like I don't know if it ever comes to any resolution, but it's just playful with it, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Because after this, like the Kindly Ones is all plot, and the Wake is all epilogue essentially. And yeah, this is the last chance for him to just like fit in all these little extra bits that I give Gaiman shit, but he has an incredibly fertile mind. As someone who's been fucking around lately with like creative writing, the form of poetry and that kind of thing. Like this is going to sound stupid, but it's hard to think of things. I'm sure you can relate, Chris.
Yeah,
and he doesn't have any shortage of ideas. He's just brimming with them, and I think this work demonstrates that, both its good qualities and its bad qualities. Like that. I agree with you, Chris. That first city story, I don't understand its point. I didn't even like the art style. Actually, no, the art style was okay. We can get more into it in a bit, and just some of the other stories were really overstuffed. And by Gaiman's own admission, he was like, "Oops, I just did a little too much in that one." But then other times, like it just nails it. Like with the Golden Boy, for instance, my opinion is like just fucking nails it.
Definitely.
So yeah. I guess we'll take them one by one. The framing device is Talbot. And that's good. I think that helps as well. It brings a continuity to it, and Brian Talbot is a really good hand, and who has, I think, even improved since last we've seen him. In the Sandman comics, last time we saw him was in a game review of, I think, might have been another appearance. No, we saw him in Fables and Reflections, the Roman Emperor story.
That's right. Yeah, I think I remember in the interviews, Gaiman saying that like Talbot has this ability to ground things in reality, and like when you see that it really does feel that way. Like you're kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there's a centaur in this tavern, and as we learned last time, asking for trouble.
Yeah,
that's true.
Waiting to get eaten.
That's right.
That's fun, and he tells no tale because he knows to stay out of the limelight.
He's the finest doctor in the fucking,
That's right.
Oh,
at World's End also.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot he was the healer.
Chiron.
Doesn't have to tell anything.
Is it?
Yeah, he doesn't have to tell any damn stories. He's a doctor, for God's sake.
That's
I
true.
did.
He's too busy.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the doctor's prerogative. I don't have to tell you guys shit.
That's right.
Take your aspirin.
I know everything.
So yeah, this first story. Okay, James, you sorry, that sounds confrontational, but like you like this story. All right, you like it.
I did, because I was surprised by Chris's not. You didn't like that. You don't like this one. I liked it because it was out of place, like art wise. I like the art. Okay, I like the art.
I like the art.
I think the art was cool, and I liked the sort of sequential layout of the. Robert waited on an empty platform and daydreamed about the silver road through the city. It just felt very weird. It felt out of place. It felt like a dream sequence.
You got it as like a Twilight Zone story.
Yeah, it was like paced funny. And I read it funny because it wasn't laid out like a normal comic. And then, yeah, I just felt like he just like aged. Like I felt like I spent years there with him. And then I don't know who that was because the art style was wonky. So I thought it might be Death. But I'm
at the end, the woman.
I'm assuming it's supposed to be Death, and he decides to not go that route. And then he comes out kind of old and fucked up, and just yeah.
The in the interviews or whatever, he laments that it looks so much like Death because like it's not supposed to be Death, and everybody takes it to be Death, and I honestly, me too.
It makes more sense if it's Death. Like it doesn't.
Okay, cool. It's nobody. Good work then.
Exactly.
Yeah, stupid idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, she reaches out a hand, and he thought that she was going to touch him, and if she touched him, he would have been lost forever. But it's not Death. Like that's just stupid.
Yeah, that it's just like nobody. That you're just confusing me.
Yeah.
Which then I did pick up that it wasn't Death also in a way, because it was never really like explicitly delivered that way either.
Well, she has a very distinct personality, and when she shows up, like it's like the Ankh wasn't there, for instance. If nothing else, like a lot of the iconography that usually gets delivered, she was gothy, but she wasn't.
So you couldn't fucking make her blonde and put us right off the trail if you wanted to write it that way,
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like again, I haven't read the script. I think it was an artist's choice, and maybe he didn't realize what he was doing.
Yeah, he throws the artist under the bus a little bit for that one.
You can throw the artist under the bus a lot of times in this entire run.
This guy Alex Stevens, he does have another book that looks like this. Strangely enough, or coincidentally enough, I saw it at my local used bookstore, and it's illustrated almost exactly like this, Sinners. And I picked it up, and I didn't buy it because I disliked this story so much. I think it looks great, but I'm just like, I don't know what the point. This like maybe cities have souls and dreams, right? Like, okay, I guess maybe they do, like, but what, so what? And like I don't, other than the fact that he gets, I guess I think it comes down to maybe there's part of me that and this is the wrong attitude to take with the Sandman as a series, is just like, I don't view dreams as worlds unimagined, and that basic idea is what motivates Sandman. But when I think of dreams, it's just like this fucking spasm of nonsense and anxiety or joy, or it's just like this. It's not a world undreamed of. It's just like replays of elements of your life mishmashed into fucking nonsense. And so like it doesn't impress me for someone to be like, what if cities dream? Because like, or this is a world that was unimagined. I don't know, something like that.
No, exactly. Yeah, like I felt like this is where it starts to cross into some kind of new agey bullshit territory, and I didn't enjoy it. And there's like page after page of nothing. Like he meets that old man on the bridge. Where are we? Well, maybe it's the dream of a city. Well, who are the Flickr people? I don't know. What will happen to me? I don't know. Okay, well, what's this fucking story about? Like it all comes to the point of like, what if cities dream and then what if they rise up? I can't even grasp that. It's
Yeah.
it's this Lovecraftian, so like it's a nod to Lovecraft. There's a Lovecraft story pretty much, well, like that idea of like going through the twisted cityscape definitely happens in a couple things, all very well and good, but I just felt like it didn't go anywhere. And it's very wordy and like just like kind of a not great prose story saddled into a comic, and I just wasn't having it.
You know what? You just described Sandman. So, like, sadly, the entire thing is about dreams. And if you feel that way about dreams, the way Doc described initially, then I mean, the whole book feels that way. It just feels like trite. It's like that. This isn't how dreams go. This isn't even a clear fantasy of regular dreams. And then all of this is just like, you're just dumping a bunch of weird mythology into pointless stories, and then it just feels so. That city description sort of is how I feel about the whole book.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And actually, one of the reasons I think that, like you were like, it felt like he was there for a long time, and it does accomplish that goal of making you feel like he's wandering, but like to the detriment of the reader. It's just like goes on for so long, and it's too much.
It was just funny hearing you guys describe it, because I just feel like every story in the inn sort of bordered on that description, like in its own way. But
that's fair. I think I'll talk a little bit later about what works for me later in some of the wordier ones. But I think when dreams are sort of a metaphor more for writing or stories or in general or imagination, that's when it starts to work for me.
Yeah, and that's what it has to be for this story to work, for the Sandman, the Dreamweaver, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm more than happy to go on that ride. But like in this particular story, it just left me, it failed to beguile me, and it left me actually thinking like, no, this isn't what dreams are like. Like, I guess maybe this is a nightmare. This does have the quality of a nightmare, but it's not weird enough to be a nightmare. He's just like, I was lost in this city, like.
It felt very anxious to me. I don't know. I took it differently, and I guess maybe it was just because of like a bit of softness to the panel layout changes and the art style of being unique and nice. But
yeah,
and just sort of a nice break.
Yeah, well, that's
fair. Right. Like visually, it does look very cool, and like I get what you're saying about that softness, and that like there is some weird dreamy anxiety to it.
I think he colored himself too. Alex Stevens, interior illustrator, page 10 to like it says Daniel Vozo did the coloring, but that coloring's so different than anything else, and it looked very much like the work that I saw in the book that I picked up. So I think he does like pencils, inks, colors. I don't know if he does the lettering. That's probably Todd Klein doing that. But anyway, it is very different, noticeably so. But who knows? Fucking okay. Which brings us next to Clerican's Tale. Old John Watkins is back to fucking shit on my day. Fuck. I do not like John Watkins. He has too many lines on the page, and it's overstuffed with words. This is the one where like Gaiman tried to do too much, and like it repels the eye for me. Like I have troubles looking at this one. I had to really force myself to read it. These first two stories were I was like, oh no. But
hang on. Which was the second story?
With the elf.
Yes. Okay. Oh, I didn't mind that one either. So I like the only two that you guys didn't like.
I didn't mind that one either, actually. But I it's not my favorite either. It was okay.
The art's really choppy though.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, like just like sequentially, I can't fucking tell anything that's going on unless you really. I think I read back too. Like I went back and let's read that page again and see what happened.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. Yeah, that's
bad, I would say. Yeah. who's telling this story? Oh, it's Clerican himself. He's trashed, and I think also I have a trouble with Gaiman's writing of drunk people. I think I'm not. I obviously, who knows? Like it's a drunk elf or fairy or whatever. So who am I to say what they're like? But it seems like a put on rather than like an actual description of what drunk people. I think it's like the strip club experience. Like this is what Gaiman thinks people being trashed looks like when he's trying to be entertaining, but I don't think it is.
There's a little bit of a Princess Bride sort of attempt to this one too, though, like sort of like the high fantasy, like I don't know, like tongue-in-cheekness to it.
Yeah. I like that Clerican's like, oh, how did he phrase it? Like, he was like, I might have added a few things here and there for the sake of storytelling.
The sword fight with the guards as he's escaping.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to.
That's a good line. Yeah, on the way down the stairs, I had a really invigorating sword fight with the palace guard. They made the stable, etc., etc.
Yeah. So okay. So
I don't believe a word of any of it.
So putting it again, the art and the coloring and whatnot, I just like it's just atrocious. But putting that aside, the story is kind of a good romp. I like Clerican doing his thing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That Clerican, watching him go in as a political actor and like this disruptive force. He's kind of like he's this disinfo expert. He just helicopters in and like destabilizes a country and fucks off.
Yeah, it's a spy tale.
Yeah. But with fairies, and I like that. And
I like a corrupt pope. Like I like the idea of like the temporal and spiritual authority being one person, and then just kind of like being a corrupt shithead with it to everybody kind of fearing his reign and being on the verge of being put to execution if they disagree with him.
Yeah, and in a sense, there's sort of a like a dispelling here, or like an exorcism. So like the temporal, like carnifex or whatever, which like it's all there in the name, like meat king or whatever. And like that's the ultimate sort of materiality, like that base cynicism and cruelty of the material. And so it makes sense that Clerican's coming in and he gets rid of that, and brings back the magic, and so in some ways it is like a rejection, which is appropriate for the Sandman story, like a rejection of materialism and the sort of complaints that I would have about Sandman. It's like it's not realistic, and in the end, like it ends in a defenestration, which is I love any story with someone being thrown out a window. Choice.
I appreciate that too. It's a great panel too. The stained glass is blowing out.
Yeah, that's actually one of the cooler parts, and then just getting feasted on at the end by the dogs. Also, he's super gluttonous too, which I guess is like just part of the material showcase.
Yeah.
I heard a real story about a professor told us in class. I can't remember which one, but they he was so fat by the time he died that like he wouldn't fit in the coffin, and like his attendants had to like basically jump on the body to like squish it in. And I thought about that when it came to this story.
Beautiful.
I don't know who that is, but like I'm willing to accept it as true. So but past that, I'm not sure what to say about this story. Like it's kind of fun. It's kind of, but at the same, like Clerican's, he gets caught, and I felt actually kind of concerned for him, if I'm honest.
They got the cold iron on him.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, he's fucked, and he's all upset. And
I like that it was like a callback to his past, because like 1,000 years ago a fairy came and like was a real shithead to our people, so we learned a few things since then. It's it's his past catching up to him finally.
Right.
You know what's a little funny, guys? The Morpheus comes back and shows weird like emotion in this book, and sort of like cares for people, saves people's lives. He still displays that sort of aloof behavior, but it's super out of character. It's almost like his entire personality is removed from this book, even though he like sort of showcases, like just moonlights in a couple of the stories.
Yeah, I will tell her, your sister, she has a good heart, Clarican. Farewell. Yeah, that's observant. I agree with you. I don't know if they've thrown out I think, like, honestly, like the timey-wiminess of this, having read Kindly Ones and then sort of revisited this after having done so. Yeah, I think it makes it makes a lot more sense and really is worth doing. Like after we finally fucking get through Kindly Ones, just like dip back into this a little bit, and you're like, oh, like it unlocks some things. If nothing else, like character wise.
You know what, too? This is actually, although it appears to be in the distant past, this is a recent mission he's talking about, and we have seen that sort of softness towards Nuala, like in the last volume when he forgives her for taking that whatever the ring or pendant or whatever. So I think
you're right. You're right. Okay.
His character, yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is growth. Like within the series, like we're seeing one of the cold, shitty character become like a little bit warm, but staying cold and shitty at the same time.
Yeah, I've reluctantly agreed to help you, because your sister asked.
Yeah. But no, that is present in this, and technically I would say that Morpheus was the cause of the nightmare in the first story. Because like dude gets on the wrong train and it's Morpheus's train, and then Morpheus is like, "Fuck, all right, I gotta let this guy off," and he leaves him in this like,
oh shit,
yeah,
okay,
so he's not always the savior here, but generally, like I agree with you, James. When he shows up at all, because I don't know, is there anything more or?
No, not with this story.
I don't think so. No.
All right, so on to the fucking main event.
Really, the pirate ship?
Yeah, well, not my favorite, but I thought that Michael Zulli and with the return of Hob.
Yeah, you were wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
So hit me with it. I'm curious.
What was good about this? The stowaway guy, the kid gets on, meets a nice British guy who sees through his facade because he's a girl stowaway young lad. It's fucking boring. There's another stowaway for no apparent reason who tells a little story about a little Indian guy with magic tricks and a magic apple. I don't know, guys. Guys, help me. I don't.
Well, let's put aside story for a minute. It's to me, it's a pleasure to see Michael Zulli, who can tell a story with his art, and there's room for the text. I can breathe. Everything looks great. There's acting with the characters. Like it passes the do you need the text?
That's fair.
Test, and like finally, thank you for someone competent who just could show up and can give me a story, and then give me like this tremendous 2-panel page, like the splash page with the sea monster. Just beautiful.
Oh yeah, the sea monster. Yeah, the same thing with the art change for the little magic man with the apple that gives eternal life.
Yeah,
there was like a full on whatever. I mean, it was a little bit Aladdin-ish. But overall, it was he was able to like shift it so you felt like you were somewhere else.
Yeah. So like Bravo on that front at least. So like in I guess just in the realm of competence, it feels like a breath of fresh air to me. And then I really like Hobb as a character. Like I'm always happy to see Hobb show up because like this concept of this guy who just refuses to die, and changes and grows, over time. That's appealing. Just walks the earth like Cain.
Yeah. Even the thing about like what he keeps talking about the sea, like we only know about a tenth of what's underneath there, and it's just that sense of wonder that he still has, even though he's been around for like I don't know whatever 500-600 years.
And there is something. So I did like if I wanted to be fussy, Lord, God forbid I be fussy. How out of character. But okay, so he has that other immortal guy who's like that king. So we get the story of where did the other immortal guy come from? Because we've learned that there's more than one. We learned that in Brief Lives, and it's a story. He became he tried to give it to his wife. His wife gave it to her, the person she was having an affair with. Person gave it to a prostitute, sex worker, sorry, comes and gives it back to the king, and he's like, faithless, and then he eats it and he walks the earth, and he just becomes like this like perpetual misogynist as a consequence.
It's true. That's women for you.
Yeah. And he remains in like, so they're like, putting aside what Jim says to in response, like just the idea, she's like, or yeah, why does the water glow like that? And he's like, the dream magic of the sea. And Hobbes' response is phosphorescent algae. And there's something like I don't know what the point is other than like there is a sort of like enlightenment superiority still at play here. And again, I'm being fussy and maybe unfair to Gaiman, but like the Indian guy, he's all reactionary, like he just doesn't grow over his thousands of years. Like he never finds enlightenment in the way that Hobb did. And I don't know, there that did strike out to me, but I don't want to like, again, I don't think that's Gaiman actually meaning to say anything, but it did sit out to me, and like the retrogressive notions of women, etc. Like it's kind of a classic Orientalist situation, and I'm really hesitant to level that against Gaiman because like he's an intelligent, thoughtful writer, but but there it is, right? And it doesn't do anything to add any complexity to that. Like that character is very one note, and
there's really no point for the character being there except to tell another story, which is sort of we're stuffing stories into stories, and that's fine.
Yeah.
What was the point of this story? They saw a sea monster and didn't tell anyone that they saw it. That's just the clever thing. Because no one would believe them.
Yeah,
like I don't know. I just don't know what I took away
through that. I don't really know how to say it, but it is saying something about the limit of stories or the nature of stories that like. Even if you see something that fantastic, like you won't be able to explain to people. Like Hobbes says, "Fine, go tell a newspaper man. Maybe they'll come investigate the ship. I'm sure the story will eventually come out. But who'd believe me?"
I think there's two things at play. Well, like if the sea is taken to be like the subconscious, like the oceanic experience,
or stories in general, like
like
both.
The dream, if the ocean is dream, then the outcropping of that beast is just like its nightmare, and like who wants to hear about your nightmares? Who wants to hear about your dreams? Like there was this eruption of this sort of ephemeral, fantastic experience. We have them all the time. And and you just don't talk about them because and I think actually like thinking about the ocean is like the subconscious is maybe more appropriate because like it's about repression. And this girl who pretends to be a boy in order to enter into the man's world, like everybody represses that knowledge. She's the hidden thing, the subaltern, and you don't talk about it. You just, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And that's something like that. Like I felt was at play, particularly with the guy telling his story about, you can't trust women.
That's a good point. Yeah.
This idea that, and I'm not sure if it adds up to the sum of its parts.
I agree.
But yeah, because Sandman's an incredibly feminist text, and this just struck this this is a very sort of a continuing comment on on the role that misogyny or whatever plays within fantasy as a genre, which will be commented on later. It just this struck me as like a pounding emphasis on that theme here. But again, does it add up? Does it fully work? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it has all the.
There might be something too, like writers, storytellers will often talk about how even if you see something that's true, it doesn't necessarily make a good story. I wonder if there's something Neil reflecting a little bit on that too. This idea that just some stories just can't be told, or people won't believe it, or you'd have to change the details for it to participate in the story. I just kind of, I don't know. I in a way I agree with you, James, that there's not a lot of story in this one, but I kind of like old stories about sailing. Like I like Moby Dick, I like Joseph Conrad, I like stuff like that, and it taps into some of that, just the feeling of it. I enjoyed just seeing some of the parallels between Hobb and this girl. They kind of have the same problem where they have to keep coming up with tricks to present themselves. Yeah, she's getting too old to pass as a boy anymore, and he's always having to reinvent his identity. And she sees that old picture of him, the locket of his old wife, and then
in his
he has
room.
to hide it. Yeah. I don't know. It was okay. I thought it was pretty good, but also, yeah, if you want to say it's, if you're bored by it, I totally get that too.
Well, the only thing I could think of too was I thought about when I went on a cruise, and sometimes at night you guys ever do this? I didn't see anything. I'll stop you right there. but I just stare at the water.
Yeah.
And just think about, I don't think about jumping off, but I think about what it would be like,
Oh God, yeah.
What would your body feel like? What's down there? Could you even swim? How long would you last before you were taken, by the sea, taken by 10,000 leagues beneath the sea, whatever?
Sure.
They'd never find you. You wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
So and it would just be just fucking icy cold, frigid, just black death. I don't know.
just don't drown.
Whenever I think of sea stories, that's what I think of. But I mean, you're not. It's not the. It's so that's different. Looking this, but that's all I think about when I see sea stories.
Right. Yeah. No, the story, the horror of the sea is not something this story's interested in. It's more I think what we're getting at is or landing on is this is a metaphor for some social issues and various experiences and gender dynamics and blah blah blah. And yeah,
and that's fine.
And even if in its coloring, it is the antithesis of any of that. It's very
Oh yeah, it's almost like they're not even. You don't even really feel like you're at sea based on the coloring. It's almost like a day at the beach sort of thing. They're
right.
They're more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. You never get the sense that they are lost in the not lost, but at sea. I think it needed another big page to kind of pull that off. That would have been helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was
departure.
necessary. I guess like you guys say, I don't based on what they were talking about, that they were that he was showcasing their two immortals, and then giving you the Jim twist at the end, and that it wasn't talking about that.
Yeah. Was it a surprise twist? I recall not.
For me, it was, yeah. Actually, I don't think I just wasn't paying attention, and then I was like, oh, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I was surprised.
Here we go again.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember if it like got me the first time. I feel that like it's very feminine. Like I feel, and this just might be me flattering myself, but I feel that like when I first read it, I was not surprised, or at the very least, like I was like, that looks like a girl, and it was just kind of a confirmation at the end.
Going back over, it does look like a girl, but I know the artist was, I don't know, they did a lot of funny like angles so that you were, I don't know, it threw me off. I wasn't looking for it.
It's the hat.
It's yeah. No, it's a good sleight of hand trick. Like it's good. Like this is what you want. I think that's another thing. Like if you can pull off the twist, that's a good story. Even if up until the moment of the twist you were like not super impressed, like that's he pulled a quarter out from behind your ear, man. Like
there you go.
Just give it some credit. All right. And now to the golden boy, your boy, Mike Allred, our boy.
My favorite one, my favorite story, the press.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad we all landed on this being like, this is, I loved this. I was like, fuck, I just want more. Like, I want the further adventures of Prez. As like in Neil Gaiman, Mike Allred form. I don't know if they collaborated on anything else after this, and like, big mistake if they haven't. Huge mistake. Like they're like peanut butter and jam. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah, they did go smooth. Also, I liked the what did you describe him as, the Asian man upstairs or whatever? When he got back down to the bar, I think he said that.
Yeah, I think so. I think
like there was an Asian man upstairs. Oh, sure there was. Excuse me, miss. Yeah. There was an Oriental man up there. I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
That's what. Anyway, I liked the Oriental man's inclusion in this story as well. He was a neat little sort of entry to the bar.
Yeah, because he's not really drinking. He's upstairs reading through the books, and he's like, "I'm looking," and
he spills his coffee. He was like, "Oh, hey," and then this is the guy that breaks the timey-wimey mold a little bit and has some knowledge of multiverses that he sort of just loosely like splats on you right in the middle of right before the story. And you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. Yeah, the America where you come from. Who was president when you left? Yeah, you're from one of those Americas. What does he say?
My condolences.
You have my sympathy. Yeah, you're like, that's sad. So yeah, Prez. This is based off an actual DC comic. Prez, created by Joe Simon and Jerry Grandinetti. Joe Simon was one of the inventors of Captain America. So I don't know a lot about Joe Simon, but I think the fact that he created Prez and Captain America probably tells you everything you need to know about.
My guy fucking loves America.
Yeah. At the very least, like, he knows how to, like, you know what sells? America. You know what sells to Americans? America.
You know what I love? America.
So this is throughout all of this, Gaiman every once in a while like picks up a DC property and does something with it, and this is I don't know what the old Prez stories were like, but I can't imagine they were as good as this.
Well, Neil doesn't exactly toe the line here for DC much in his Sandman, so it's about time he fucking picked up the slack anyway.
Yeah. We couldn't even get a good Batman moment out of this fucking.
No fucking cameos at all. Give me a break, buddy.
We got the cameos early on, but they were shitty. But that's just because the way DC Comics was at the time. Like Justice League was like fucking Martian Manhunter eating Oreos, which
Scarecrow.
yeah, exactly. This is like Dr. Destiny. So anyway, I also I had in mind like Watchmen reading this, and I because like he fucks around with watches. There's the smiley face. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate the boss Smiley at all. He gave me
Yeah.
a real bad jolt. You don't want to talk to that guy.
That's true. It's really fucking creepy.
He looks like Odo from Deep Space Nine. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Or like
Yeah,
Matt.
kind of, yeah. But like with the moon face.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like okay, as much as I love this, what the fuck is Boss Smiley? Like is he he's like the field, I mean obviously he's the capitalistic master, right? That's like and
fuck.
and so like the smiley face is like the sort of feel good self-actualizing self-help presentation of capital. Like of course it's going to be like that. It's not going to be like factories or something. It's going to be like a smiley. It's going to be like that. It's going to look like the Walmart smiley face.
Well, that's nice for an observation.
Definitely, and I like too when he Boss Smiley actually shows him, and this is a direct quote, like all of America from Disneyland to Coney Island to the concrete mountains of Manhattan to the golf courses of Miami, and it's all these emblems of like just like the simulacra, right? Just carnivals, distractions, just things that aren't real.
Right. And even the art takes on like the actually the contrast to that though is that Allred doesn't draw New York. He uses a photo image and pastes it on like a photo, like the only photorealistic image in this story. So it is like he's offering materiality, and also you probably know this, but I mean like it's Satan offering
definitely
world to Jesus. Like it's a direct parallel, and yeah, there's just so much going on. And that's another thing I love about this story. It's just like it's layered, but it's also just fucking zany fun.
Yeah, I love the idea that Gaiman finally tackles politics, and it's just this sort of fable of this fantastic version of it.
And perfectly appropriate for the Sandman as a franchise.
Yeah.
I don't care what he fucking thinks about Republicans.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I do like. Oh, you don't never want Richard Nixon to show up in your bedroom, but that's exactly what happens. I love the idea of him being
the
sort of
press
like
handles it smooth too.
He does.
Yeah.
He's kind of a guardian angel, like almost kind of like trying to give him some advice on how to be president. What about making the world a better place? I'm not following you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get to make a difference. You don't get to do jack shit. Fantastic.
Morons is concerned. While you're in office, you'll be the worst single president they've ever had. There's a truth to that. I think everybody hates on whoever's in the office. Like to one extent or another.
It's funny too because typically you go back. You think back to previous years too, and you think, oh man, we didn't appreciate that guy when he was in there.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Yeah, I mean, like, George W. Is worst mass murderer in history, but still preferable in many ways to like things that we've seen. You're like,
yeah,
I kind of do want to see that guy, but I think that's a smokescreen. I think actually in many ways he was worse than racist grandpa. But
yeah, but you kind of like it was only in the absence of like a further sinking that you realized, oh, he probably did have some kind of principles.
Right. Yeah. He certainly did. Yeah. Like whether those like led to actual like exacerbating the like his fucking terribleness, but he did have principles, like he learned to paint at end of life, and he racist grandpa's never going to paint dead souls.
No.
It's just never going to happen. Sorry,
I hear a lot of people talk about like Bill Clinton and Clinton family like corruption and stuff, but I feel like that comes from Trump.
Yeah, well, he was a piece of shit. I mean, they're all pieces of shit. I'm going to go on the record right now, and if you're the American president, you're a piece of shit. You're a fucking monster and a war criminal. Like, but all of them. You can't tell me any different. However, and so I don't like. Yeah, of course, you're gonna tie all sorts of bullshit to these people, and you can do the same thing with W and racist grandpa, and but yeah, the Clintons were. Anyway, it's funny. It's funny that your mind does turn to these things, but yeah, the Clintons are just as shitty as Nixon, just in different ways. That's how I feel. I mean, Nixon's a special beast, and it must be meaningful that fucking Nixon shows up.
That's I find it weird that he pulled John Belushi out also.
I think he had more cachet at the time. I think that meant more back then, but I don't know because it is 1993, right? Like,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I love Prez's crew. Like when after he's like elected president and he's driving in his car. Who the fuck is in this car? Like,
that's a great image.
What the fuck?
There's a monkey. There's a guy with a guitar. There's like,
that's pretty Allred-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're meant to be like sort of hippie icons or whatever. Like, yeah, but they look so angry. Like they look like fuck yeah. Like there's no joy. The only one who's happy is like the woman, and she just seems like a mannequin. It's actually very creepy.
She looks dead inside.
Yeah, right. And she's like, like, and these guys are mean mugging like the entire fucking crowd, and like it doesn't look like a good thing has happened.
Yeah.
There's also someone in the back seat playing a guitar that we can't see.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Didn't grab that. So
I think the hardest I've had suspending disbelief in Sandman is the idea that the youth voted for anything, like to allow a young president.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair.
There's because you're right. Yeah, like I thought the same thing. I was like, this would never happen. And, like, youth voting age was reduced. Like, that's not gonna. And then they amended the Constitution so that way, like, and you're like, no, like that is not what the youth do. Like the youth break shit. The old people vote, and the young kids break shit. And always thus it was. And I just don't see like a revolution of this sort. It works for this, of course, it's like
it's fun. It's exactly. It's a tall tale. It's what do you call it? Like Americana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love these omens that foreshadow his election. The baby with the shape of the USA birthmark, and then it's Caesar's Palace, all the slot machines hitting the jackpot simultaneously.
The blind man that can see.
Yeah, that's right.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah, just before everybody gets mean mugged. I think the only reason this story really works for me though is like the heart that it has. Like all of a sudden, like when Prez's wife is murdered. And he carries on, and he's just like he's so fucking sad and broken, and like watching him, like you actually see like an American Buddha, at work, like a true spirit of healing and reconciliation, like meant like you actually see it, rather than than have it just talked about, and it's kind of beautiful to see, and it made me feel for this story that in a way that like it could have just been a fun, what if story. And he managed to wring like a lot of heart out of it. So like so his struggle with Boss Smiley becomes like all the more difficult, like I could bring your wife back. And he's like, no,
it might not be healthy for you to run again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. Just that like little horror moment of her, like, Prez, can you see me? It's really dark in here.
Oh man, yeah, and that's super hard. Like,
I like that he. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I like that he immediately like appealed to the Secret Service, please don't hurt her.
Yeah.
Like the woman that shot his wife dead right there on the spot. Like he was immediately, like Jesus, he immediately forgave. He has none of that in his heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's kind of like this idea of if Christianity is at the center of the American dream, like this is super appropriate for it to have like the American avatar as Jesus, like, and the tragedy of America is that like its Christianity is really just a way of talking about whiteness, like it's not really about in any sort of like I don't know, I'm going to use the word enlightened spirituality, like this idea of forgiveness and reconciliation, like that's not on the agenda, like that's boss Smiley's agenda is on the agenda in America, and and that includes like many elements of Christianity, like from my perspective almost all of them, and Prez is like this potent avatar of like what America could be, and for that reason, Sandman saves him. At the end, he's just like he saves him from Boss Smiley, and I'm going to preserve you, and you're gonna continue to exist as like an ideal, like this perfect American avatar in your striped orange pants. You goddamn beauty.
I thought it was so interesting too that like if it's a Christ narrative, Boss Smiley is God, and he he's like, oh, like you've ascended to heaven, you're gonna sit at my right hand side,
right?
And that's where Sandman gets to intervene. But like that was, I don't know, an interesting choice.
Was he God or was he Satan?
Well, either way, like I mean, I guess he's Satan ruling the world, right? Maybe there's some level above it, but yeah.
Yeah,
the angels look false to me. They're wearing like grocery bag suits.
Oh yeah, they look all fucked up. Yeah, like they're wearing like they look like mummies.
It's like a staged heaven, like a That's where his true. Walmart face is super exaggerated.
There he is there. Sir, you must serve God or Walmart. So again, we're seeing another rejection of materialism in the way that we saw with the Clerican tale. Like this idea of the temporal and spiritual authority being the same thing. And in this case, it's just given like a larger sort of cosmic sheen.
Yeah. You're right. It's directly here too. Like, well, what are you, God or the devil? I'm just Boss Smiley. I run your world.
Yeah.
Fucking Walmart.
Yeah. And so he's let loose into the multiverse to hopefully heal some Americas out there. I don't know. Like, so what's his plan? Like, is he gonna like be reincarnated as like he's
the American Jesus?
Yeah, just over and over.
I like the watch story at the end too. That was cool.
Sorry, what do you mean? Like when he
gave the his father's timepiece to the to the Sandman.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's a couple minutes to midnight on that watch. It's a herald of death.
It's an Iron Maiden song, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this was great. So much packed into it. Really enjoyable. Highlight of the story of the series of these short stories, I think. Because then we get over to like Sarah Mintz. Is that how I should pronounce that, Chris?
So I actually don't know, but it sounds right to me.
Yeah. And again, I think there's a failure of inking here. Like Vince, I can't look at this. Fuck, I was just like, I don't care. You're just burying things. Great, you got all this bunch of stuff.
You're right about the failure of inking.
So that's true. Yeah, I don't. There's a few art because the penciling looks fair enough to me, but something's wrong, whether it's coloring or inking, but it doesn't pan out.
Yeah. Who is this? This is Shea Anton Pensa. I did a little look and I was like, who the fuck is this person? They didn't do a lot of comics work. They had done like Green Arrow prior to this briefly. This isn't. I don't know where they dig some of these people up sometimes. Like, I don't know why I had to be inflicted with John Watkiss like more than once, or why these like substandard talents are being thrown in here with all these greats. This is another example of like Sandman's. One of its greatest weaknesses is it just didn't have consistency of art, and it hurts. It really hurts, like the flow of it, and which is a shame. And then yeah, there's not enough room for the words. There's so many fucking words.
Yeah. Although I really like this story in a way, like just in it's a flex, it's playful, it just becomes a game of stuffing stories inside stories again. I kind of liked the sort of Harry Potterish world of like, wherever these ghouls with their school and Petrifax getting in trouble because he wasn't paying attention enough, so he gets pulled on the special assignment, has to bonus work with the professor.
And he pulls out a lot of like world building. Like again, yeah, you're right. I should be kind. He accomplishes a lot with this. I just didn't really enjoy going through it.
But it's funny because like I was thinking about this because like again, there's a lot of exposition and I was kind of enjoying that. I was just trying to figure out what's the difference between this and the first story. And I think it's just that like you're being told a lot of things, but the whole time you have the feeling that you're really being told something else. And it was kind of fun to reflect on what's the real story here? Like why are we being told about these cerements at the basement of this necropolis where all they do is focus on burying people? It's like, because there's something going on with the Endless, and there's this room with this special book that they need when one of them dies. You get that story of the old destruction coming through, and just kind of giving a little coda to his story, like his sort of appreciation of saying goodbye to things. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool.
No, it like in that sense it was and it's super appropriate for everything that's going to come forward, and it hints at things that's going to come forward. It does a lot. Yeah, like flex is maybe a good word. I just don't. I think he would have been better served with someone else doing this flexing.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 issues. But you certainly packed it all in. Yeah. James, is there anything that you really liked or disliked about this one?
No, I this was okay. I didn't like the art was hard in this one. It was, but it was like it was capable, and I liked the grotesquerie.
Certainly had lots of that.
Yeah.
I like the little
taste better when you eat them with the remains of your client.
That was my part. I was gonna say the disrespectful to the client. His remnants are said to add savor to the food. Real classy.
Yeah.
And then I kind of fell off a bit. But anyway, I was gonna say too. I don't know if we can blame your inker, Mark Buckingham, worked on Fables.
I think
this could be the shit penciler.
No, I think he's inking Talbot. Vince Locke is inking Shea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've seen Vince Locke in the past. Like, I don't know. Like, honestly, I think the true culprit here is Shea Anton Pensa, and maybe like fucking inkers get the worst of it in the entire comics industry. They get like they are probably, to my mind, I'm increasingly of the opinion that they're more important than pencilers, because like all the penciler does is just like offer some guidelines on the page, and then the inker like makes it come to life. And I don't know, maybe people just can't, like, I don't know, like, how do you make heads or tails out of this? And like, I don't.
Scott Williams is happy to hear that.
Yeah, man. Like, I want to
Yeah.
put Scott Williams, man. He's and all those inkers all you inkers out there, much respect. Anyway, I don't know what the problem is. I just didn't like it, and it doesn't surprise me that this person didn't have a long career in comics because they're not an exceptional talent.
Yeah, I just didn't. I don't know. This one I kind of glazed over a little bit too. I didn't like it. And there were like a couple little moments. The one at the end, the little one at the end with the. How do you pronounce this guy's name?
I think Petrofax.
No, not Petrofax. The other guy.
Oh,
Klaproth
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. If
Just
you were dead,
Klaproth.
young man, I would know it. Experience in these matters. He was creepy, and I don't know.
He's their Snape.
Yeah, there you go. It's creepy, nice guy.
It's Harry Potter for processing corpses before the idea was ever made.
Missed opportunity. Yeah, okay, all right. So then we close off when I learned. Okay, so again, getting back to Sandman being an incredibly feminist text, like Gaiman can't. I wonder what is going on in and I don't know if you have an answer to this, Chris, but I'm increasingly wondering, like, what is the discourse around fantasy at this time? Like, why is this so relentlessly feminist in the way that it is?
I think that's Neil. I don't think that there's any specific reason.
Mhm.
I doubt that fantasy. Like, I mean, well,
I'm thinking of
I guess it's Charles Vess, and like some other like British people, but like when I think fantasy of that era, I think like, I don't know, Michael Moorcock, like David Eddings, like just like these epic fantasy dudes, like.
Yeah. I guess there's an irony to this. Okay, so throughout these stories, it's attempted to, or it's symbolized like we're getting rid of materiality. Materiality's out, dream is in, unimagined worlds, dream. And what this story immediately does is just like it tries to ground it, but ground it like, oh, it's all just boys' stories. And they're like, well, what's your story, woman? And then she just tells the most pedestrian, fucking pathetic story.
It's horrific.
But like, honestly, but I suppose the trouble I have with it is just like I don't know, what's the point other than, again, to ground it in reality and like there's actually real women out there, but like I don't think any of these, other than the story of Jim, like I don't see these stories as being particularly like anti-woman or anything like that. Like I don't see how this is an antidote or a rejoinder to the majority of what we've read in this series. And so it just seems like Gaiman's good enough to make us feel something about this woman, like complaining about how she like sleeps with her ex-husband and eats pizza.
Yeah, fucking Brant went under the bus hard here for that Christmas grope.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah,
Brant.
it's just like, oh, I've been
women, huh?
Yeah. The worst part is
judged by the multiverse.
Yeah. Just like these
like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's even kind of weirdly contradictory of like, oh, like, why don't you tell us a woman's story? Women's stories have no value, fools.
Well, that's
Like,
kind of it. It's like real woman's story is fucking boring as fuck. You know,
exactly.
like,
it's like
and
you're not making the point you think you're making.
I think that's kind of, yeah, and so like I'm like, why did he do that? Like, is it some sort of like weird guilt thing that he has, and like, does he really need to like, oh, and it's really about a penis coming out of the, like, no, it wasn't, like, and that's why I'm like, it was that comment. It was like, she isolates all the genres. She indicates that they're boys' adventures. Like there's something of like a literary, like a proper critique, like that Gaiman read in a book somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm not saying he's just parodying a certain standpoint, but he has something in mind. He has a way of viewing fantasy in mind, which is theory informed, and I think he gives it away in that moment. And I'm just curious about what he's reading and what texts are available at that time.
I mean, we could also read it as like her turfing the genderqueer character, right? Like they're like, you're not a real woman. Like
That's kind of a good point too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
My story, sure it was.
yeah. if we're charitable, I think we could, like, it's this moment where I don't know, it's just like it's less about I mean, he says in the interviews that it's sort of a playful nod to the idea that he considers these volumes like men's stories and women's stories and sort of alternates them, and the next one's going to be really about the
Sure
fates.
is.
Yeah, the kindly ones. So yeah, and then it's also sort of this moment of her just like rejecting her life, right? So like it's less about her story than about her looking for, like, hearing all these stories and then looking for something new, which a lot of the characters do. Well, I guess just Charlene and Petrofax. That stupid moment where he climbs on the back of the centaur.
Yeah,
That
right?
was so stupid.
And the parallel with them is because he too is like, I have no tail.
True. Yeah, that's right.
And actually, I have to revise what I said. Okay, so it grounds it in her materiality, but then it rejects materiality once again at the end, and so she even disappears, and becomes story, as the preferable choice to the reality of ex-husband, sex, and pizza.
Right.
And
she joins the inn. She's part of the circus now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like oh god.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't like. Yeah, I'm not sure what's the whole, like. I can't get by the end where she just like outs him for the drunken Christmas party.
Yeah.
And then like man shames him in front of the multiverse and then runs off, and then like I'm not sure what I'm supposed to take away from that. And then because she's like, he just saved her life.
Well, he endangered her life through his, like, he's the
There was a goddamn fucking demon goat on the road.
If he hadn't drove, like he was tired.
If he wasn't tired, he wouldn't have crashed from the demon goat.
Yeah, that's possible, because he was starting to fall asleep and he got sucked into the reality storm, etc. I think
okay.
He's a simp.
Men are generally the villain. That's what you're saying.
Well, I think so. Like in this, like that's the thing. Like this relentlessly feminist text, like it wants to send up this guy who is like, he's clueless. Like I don't think he's really evil in any respect, or even malignant. Like he's not. Aside from the fact that he'll come down the stairs and refer openly to the Oriental man.
That's right.
He's also racist.
Yeah.
Casually racist. The guy was Oriental.
He was, yeah. That was an Oriental guy. Like, I'm with you, but
you.
That is exactly what I might have said. It's kind of like an There's like a.
Just up at the stairs there, it was an Oriental. Yeah, I don't know if I would have gone that route myself, but did anybody read The Funeral?
Okay, so like this procession of like I honestly I kind of gave it a pass.
I looked at it and I was like, oof,
I read it. It was not that great. But.
Yeah. And he's just like, oh, it reminded me of my dad, and like I again, like this book never misses an opportunity to just jerk itself off as much as possible. And I think that's another reason I've come to resent it so much as we like this. You're not even done yet, Gaiman, and you're just taking a moment to just pull it, like right in front of everybody for like how many pages?
It's like, flexing.
It's 10.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's not jerking. It's flexing.
Yeah.
Like I think this is too soon. Like, because this is an echo of a future event, but you do this later. It's kind of a fun way to do it though. Like it's
interesting.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is like you're wondering what this reality storm is, and it's just some foreshadowing where I don't know. I just realized that if you put text in front of me, I can't not read it. So maybe that's part of why I was so resentful for the first story too. By this point, my soul was broken and I just read it all.
Right. Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I say, like, I read too many comics to, like, I have to say no to text in order to go through as many comics as I go through. Because often it's really not worth it. And this was another instance. And I could tell, I sensed it.
You felt it in your heart. You were like, no, this isn't it.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not where I'm gonna hunker down and take something away.
Yeah, step by step, they walked across the sky like giants with their burden on their shoulders, pacing in unison, slow as time. That's a terrible.
Yeah.
It's not. Sorry, terrible. It's not fair, but I mean, like, that's not compelling text. To just go over.
Meanwhile, shamelessly, I'll slap through those 10 pages, come around the corner, and, hey, boy, if you're coming, jump on my back. Yeah, there we go, boy.
There we go.
And I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Now I'm back in the book.
Top hat.
Now, I'm down for some weird blue man centaur love, or whatever the fuck's happening here.
He's giving a little tip of his, like, a cowboy.
Yeah.
You know
Oh
what's
man,
really
those
funny?
guys are riding off into the sunset. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Right, man.
What really made me laugh is like in Greek myth, like often centaurs are like carrying people away from weddings to rape them and shit like that. So I was like, fuck. Petrifax no.
Oh man.
I don't know. Petrifax looks like a willing participant, if you will.
That's true.
So he gives up a life as like a burial master, and rides off. And then
I think you made the right choice.
There was no other choice for him. He has no stories, so he's got to go and get them.
Yeah, and like I'm gonna tell you right now, are you gonna ride off with that centaur, or are you gonna hang around with Charlene? I'm out of there. Sorry, I'm going to ride the centaur.
She's a bummer.
Yeah, she's just wow.
So she stays. Are we supposed to recognize the woman, like the bar owner? She does this weird dance thing at the end. Like is it supposed to be like the dancer from Brief Lives? Like she's doing a similar hand gesture.
Oh.
Is it like a Ganesh thing? It's like a lot of arms. Or
or I don't know. It does have a sort of like Indian dance kind of thing, but it could very well be like those patterns. Who knows? I just was reminiscent of like the lady who was like the Mesopotamian dancer, whose name escapes me. But anyway,
Oh, Ishtar.
Ishtar. Yeah, there we go. I was like, is that Ishtar? But no, she burnt up pretty bad in her final dance routine. And then and so then we close off with Brant. Is that his name, Brant? Yeah, and he's having a drink with Velma from Scooby Doo.
It sure is.
Which one's the nerd? Which one?
Velma.
Velma. Yeah, all right.
that's right.
And she's like, the story wasn't too fucking weird. I've heard weird stuff. And then it ends. And
yeah, he's really like, I don't know, he's lost himself,
That's a hell of a story to tell someone at a bar. It must have been so boring.
Yeah.
And then there was like a centaur man, and this Oriental guy was up the stairs, and he told me about Prez. And I'm like,
Yeah, I wouldn't be saying I've heard weirder.
Yeah. And I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
you're
It'd be
upset,
better if
man.
she's like, I've heard weirder. You should talk to American Jesus over there by the pool table.
Prez.
That would have been an amazing ending.
Yeah,
A lot better than, well, good night. Good night.
that'll do.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.